Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Wealth Manifesting Summit. We are so excited to have you back. We are, again, learning both the science and energetics behind the innate power that we all have to manifest our desires. Today, we have with us a multi-award winning healer, teacher, and author, Antonia Herman. Antonia introduces a unique approach called Wizardry, love that word, which embodies spiritual healing, enlightening, and magic. And I love this analogy from her that we are all gods with amnesia, and wizardry serves as a key to remembering our innate powers. She is also the author of book Discover Energy Secrets, which we are going to talk about in a moment. But please, right now, join me in welcoming Antonia to the summit. Welcome to the summit, Antonia. So thrilled.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
No, our pleasure. We are so excited to have you here. Antonia, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your journey as a healer and a trauma specialist?
I feel like I need to address wizardry, actually. You've introduced me as a wizard, and I'm now thinking that sounds a little odd. So I want to explain the difference between a witch and a wizard, because I think that's something that people don't necessarily know about, and it's something that people assume might be to do with gender, like wizards are men and witches are female, and that's not the case. So I'd just like to start with what the heck the difference is between the two. Okay. There's two different styles of magic. There's one called higher level magic and lower level magic, or 3 and 5D healing. This is not a term that I've come up with as an ancient mystery schools term. So ancient mystery schools term. So lower level magic is the stuff which most people are familiar with, which is, to be frank, brilliant. It has so many different ways of doing it. So anything like Reiki, you'd be using signs or symbols, or using Western medicine, allopathic medicine, Wicca, witchcraft, all those different shamanic ceremonies. You're using an intermediary to help you achieve your goals. So maybe you're using a potion or a spell or a symbol or a sign or a pill or something, or a wand or some sort of device, like some intermediary to help you harness your power, maybe a coven with lots of other people working on it together, maybe an angel. But there's something between you and the magic helping you achieve your goals. That's what the 3D stuff is, or the witchcraft is. Wizardry, see, this is different from what everyone else thinks as well, but this is the original, how it works originally, because you'd assume we'd have wands. I mean, I do have a wand, but it's just for play. But wizardry is that we're direct incarnations of the divine, that we're gods with amnesia. So I've spent the last 20 years awakening my innate abilities, because we're gods and goddesses with amnesia. So I don't need a process in between. I set having awoken my latent abilities, was locked up tight, I just intend to do something, and it happens first time, every time. I don't need an intermediary to help me achieve my goals. And that's the difference between witch and wizard.
I love that, actually, because a lot of people, some of us are lucky, we find intermediaries, and some of us do not. So just realizing that we have it inside us all along is very powerful. So tell us
the
about
last line of my book is actually the last line of my book is actually from Wizard of Oz, which is actually completely poignant here. So I'm just going to read it to you, because now you've made me think that. It says, in the immortal words of Glinda from the Wizard of Oz, you always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself. So
beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. Love it. So, Antonia, tell us, how did you get into this? Because I know that, your background is in TV. And how did you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Well, I'm an unlikely healer. Let's start with that. I was never into this. I was very indoctrinated into the way that most normal people think, and very sort of devoted to Western medicine, and thought this was all a load of nonsense, woo-woo. Who are these strange people? Because this is 20 years ago. So things have become a lot more mainstream and accessible, but it was a lot of hippies, and I was definitely not a hippie. I was coming from the world of TV presenting, and, very different sort of way of being and seeing the world. So I had a dear friend who'd had an issue where she'd burst her eardrum around 5 times, and she'd been to the doctor and the specialist and the surgeon, and they said it was £4,500 with a 50% chance of success. They won't do it on the NHS. And NHS is our National Health Service in England with free healthcare.
Yeah.
They said they wouldn't do it on the NHS, which normally they would, but because it was such a low success rate, they didn't. They said no, and she was in agony. It was excruciating pain, like childbirth through her ear twice a week. It was absolutely awful for her, and I mean, it's enough to make someone cry. That's the sort of stuff that, you know, could potentially end people's lives because it was that bad. And she was literally being stabbed in the head. And it was about twice a week. And she didn't know what to do with it. She was a stewardess of Virgin Atlantic, which also meant she was unable to fly, because if you have a problem with your ears mid-flight and you know, heaven forbid, a burst eardrum mid-flight, you've got to land the plane. Like, there is no way around this. This is land the plane, and a very, very serious and could cause a lot of problems. So it meant that she was grounded a lot of the time, which meant that she could get stranded in various different countries around the world. And if her ear was dodgy, then she couldn't fly. And if she didn't fly, she didn't get paid. It was a very, very, you know, because of the nature of her work, it was even more detrimental to her life, because, you know, she can't fly with a damaged ear. And regardless of that, it was mad making levels of pain. So I thought, you know, sorry, plugging myself in. So I didn't know anything about this healing stuff, and I thought it was all very strange. I ended up doing a course, which I was very skeptical of at the time. And then it just sort of opened something up in me. And I, you know, and it really wasn't what they were teaching. It was something internally, because I ended up doing something which was way beyond my pay grade. So what happened was, I was walking down the street with her in Notting Hill in London, and she has got the surgery booked. And because what else do you do? And it's a lot of money, £4,500, and she's in her early 20s. This is what, 17, 18 years ago, something like that. And she said she was just in excruciating pain, didn't know what to do. And she booked the surgery. So she falls to her knees when we're walking down the street and starts effing and blinding and saying, "Help me fix my ear, fix my ear." And I was like, "What? What do you mean fix your ear?" And she says, "You're a healer now." I said, "I've done a 5-day workshop. I'm not even sure any of this exists. It all sounds completely batty." Like, what? And she just was crying and weeping and snotting, and it was all very dramatic. And obviously she's my best friend, and I wanted to do my best for her. And she was just like, please and pleading, "Just help me, just help me, just try." And I went, "What the hell do you think I can do?" She says, "You're a healer now." And I went, "No, I'm not." What? So I was completely out of my comfort zone, completely. That's an insane thing to ask me to do. Anyway, I took her to the loos of a restaurant and put my hands on her ear and started channeling energy. And to my utter surprise, something came out of her ear that looked like a snake in heat waves. I was pulling it out, and it looked like a snake in heat. When I pulled this thing out, and it was about 1.5 feet long, it had some girth to it, and it was wriggling around on the ground like a snake. And I threw some energy at it, boom. And then she said, "Do the other side," and a smaller, narrower one came out on the ground, wriggling again, threw some more energy at it. And that was in 2007. Her earache went. I had an epiphany, like, the world, medicine is missing a trick. There's more to it than this. And she's never had earache since. It stopped that day, which meant that she didn't need to have the surgery. And there was only a 50% chance that surgery was going to work, 50% chance of that, which means that I don't think the doctors would have been able to do it, because it was an energetic parasite. I later learned there was no way they would have been able to do it. She would have been agony for ongoing. And that was a miracle. I mean, that's literally an on-the-spot miracle. And that changed everything, because I suddenly was like, holy smokes, there's more to it. Medicine doesn't know everything. There are things outside of their abilities. And this is the most interesting, inspiring, best thing I can devote my life to. And that was in 2007. I've devoted my life to this ever since. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of many, many miracles, which is just so life affirming and absolutely beautiful. And I love teaching this stuff as well as working on people one-to-one, because I specialize in miracles, and you can too.
I love the "you can too" part. Love that. Amazing. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, we do have this power in us, even when we are sometimes skeptical about it, because that's what your journey sounds like. That, huh?
I was skeptical as hell. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And the thing is, skepticism is such a great thing because it means you're no one's fool. You shouldn't go in there and believe every Tom, Dick, and Harry about everything. That would be dangerous in so many ways. But it's an openness with your skepticism. Go in there going, never heard about this. This sounds suspicious. This sounds like too good to be true. Go in there with that. But when evidence presents itself, which proves the other point, then allow yourself to paradigm shift and allow yourself to be open to the evidence. And then to be able to change. That's one of the biggest signs of intelligence, is really being presented with evidence, which is different to your belief system, and then going, I didn't know about that. And start thinking and mulling over different potentials.
Love that. So, Antonia, then my question is that, and I see that you have a full chapter on your on manifesting in your book. So basically what you're saying is that despite a skepticism, we are able to manifest. Is that what I'm hearing? Tell us more about that.
So, look, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. So you can definitely stop yourself from manifesting. If you've gone in there and said this is a load of nonsense, then it's not going to work for you, my friends. I'm sorry. You have to almost go, it's believe it before you see it. You really have to believe it before you see it with manifesting. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And there's a lot of action steps in manifesting as well. Like Prince Charming isn't just going to arrive at your door. If you do want to meet a partner, what are you doing to go and meet people? And it can be as simple as talking to the postman, talking to random people walking down the street, so you're not so socially awkward and you're more open to meeting people, even if they're not the people that you would necessarily consider dating, but talking to your neighbors, talking to these different people, so that you get used to doing social interactions, and then you're comfortable meeting new people and you have an openness to meeting new people. Are you going on dates? Are you doing various different things? The likelihood of Prince Charming arriving in your living room is low. I've actually met one of my best friends in my living room. So there is a slight caveat with me, because I'm very social and people have come to my house. I met my best friend, who was my best friend all the way through my 20s. She's moved to Australia now, but I did meet her in my living room. I have met a number of amazing people in my living room, but that's because I go out and I have people in and I've had a lot of parties. But it tends not to be the case, especially if you're quite antisocial. So, there are steps that everybody needs to be taking, and expecting everything to just, it's not like wishing with a genie and go poof and this thing appearing. It is, deciding what you want and then taking steps to achieve that. It's God favors, the hard worker and the people who are actually grafting, but there is more to it, because there is the dark side of manifesting, which I think we should talk about.
Yeah, and yeah, you briefly mentioned that, and I was really intrigued by it, that yes, manifesting, we think that, oh, I'm going to look at something, and thanks to the movie Secret, right? We all think that I'm going to just look at a car and it's just going to appear. But last time when we spoke, you talked about dark side of manifesting.
Dark side of the law of attraction. So this is something I really want to address, because it's something that I don't think is very well known. And I came up with it myself. I don't know if anyone else has also come up with it, but I realized this from my own workings, the dark side of the law of attraction. Okay. So everyone, I'm assuming, is aware of The Secret and their vision boards and all of that sort of work. And I'm sure anyone who's interested in the summit will have an awareness around this stuff. But the premise, just to break it down in the most simple terms, is about you attracting things that you want because you're focused on the things that you want. Yeah. So, you're making a vision board, you're looking at it every day, you've got your different checks, you're looking at these things, and then they manifest because you've set a clear intention. The universe then goes ahead to kind of help to make it work for you. But I also think there is the working element, like making sure that you are part of the journey and actually doing the work yourself. That's vital. There's another component which is missing, because it's not a genie. One thing we have to remember about what's in our energetic field. So like attracts like. So the law of attraction is about magnetism. So it's like you having an abundant mindset and then you attracting abundance, because like attracts like, and it magnetizes together is the premise. And then people are, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, you're making the affirmations, you're saying things in the mirror, but do you actually feel that way? So if you've got things going on your energetic field or in your thought patterns which are against your abundance mindset, you may be self-sabotaging. Let me give you an example. For example, if you've had lack in your growing up, so maybe you struggled financially, or you've always struggled financially, or there's been, your parents were worried about money, or there's just lack. There's been many situations of lack in your life.
Right.
If you have that, and they're whirring around in your mind, or they're just sitting there pregnant in your energy field, I'm sorry, that's what you're ordering from the universe, because the universe doesn't understand your positive versus your negative. No matter how many affirmations that you're making or practices that you're doing, if you still have that energy of lack, you're going to be attracting lack, because that's what the universe thinks you're ordering.
I love that. So is that why sometimes we end up attracting what we don't want? Because I have heard so many people say that I don't want this, but this keeps happening.
Yes. And another really good example is people in relationships and attracting a style of abuse. Maybe you're attracting a cheater. Maybe you're always attracting people that cheat, and you can't for the life of you, because you're such a beautiful, amazing person. Why is that? And was there infidelity in your home growing up? Because if there's infidelity in your home growing up, even if it wasn't you doing it, then that's in your energetic field, because unless you've cleared it, it's going to be in your field. Whether or not it directly affected you and they were cheating on you, it was still in your home growing up, which means it's in your energetic field, which means you keep ordering it, whether or not it's got anything really to do with you. Because think about law of attraction is making orders to the universe, like, I want this. But if you've got something which is go, no, she doesn't, no, she doesn't, no, she doesn't, she actually wants this, which is like continuing to say that behind the scenes. Like, it's like going to a restaurant and going magnanimously, I want the steak for dinner, and then whispering behind actually, and then just go, and keeping like changing your order with the waiter, and actually just saying, actually the chicken, actually the chicken, actually the chicken. You're going to, the waiter's going to go, well, what the dickens do you want? You said very strongly that you wanted the steak, but now you're actually saying chicken 50 times, 1,000 times. Which one is it? And because you've actually, even though they're smaller, it's a build-up and it's a continuing thing. You keep thinking about the lack or the chicken or whatever it is, or the infidelity, because it's in your field. Even if you're not conscious of it, then it will still be saying that, and it will still end up having more power, confuse the kitchen for sure, or the universe. And then they'll probably end up bringing you the thing which you're quietly continually saying. So what people need to do to manifest is really get rid of their emotional traumas. They need to work through and notice when you're having blocks in your life, what is it that you keep manifesting that you don't want? And I do believe, we are the captain of the ship. We are in charge. So if you keep manifesting narcissists or poverty or cheaters or loss or lack or whatever it might be, whatever the thing is that you keep bringing into your life, you need to sit with, and you need to come to peace with it. You need to literally just sit there and go, well, that always keeps happening. And why does that always keep happening? And then you need to dissolve it. I mean, there's a way to, like, I know we're going to be giving a free gift away, and you can actually start to dissolve some of these traumas that you've had with the free gift. We'll get to that later, I'm sure, but that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be to simply sit there, and you can layer like a positive memory on top of a negative memory. So start with something which isn't totally devastating. Just think of something a 3 or a 4 out of 10. So think of that memory, allow yourself to feel it, and then layer on top of it a really, really good memory, a really positive one, and sort of merge those two together and neutralize the less favorable one, and keep going through your different situations and neutralizing the memories. And then you will stop attracting the things that you don't want. if you want to do something bigger, we have that video coming up we'll talk about.
Amazing, amazing. And actually, it's a very good segue to my next question that, yes, energetic field, your own subconscious is so powerful, right? So other than, neutralizing that memory, what are some simple things that our audience can do, like, to raise our frequency, to get that awareness? Simple things. If I ask you, what are your top 3 simple things that we can do on a day-to-day basis?
My courses, honestly, that's the easiest way of doing everything, because everything is fast tracked by doing that. But I think people really need to sit with their stuff and really notice where it is that things are messing up in your life. What is it that keeps happening? What is it that you keep messing up? And then I think people need to have some I've forgotten the word, not authenticity, it's authority, forgotten the word, but they're going to have to really own it, go into the situation, think it's not pretty looking at yourself, it's not pretty looking at all the problems and stopping blaming other people. Stop blaming other people and start looking at what you've attracted in. I tell you what, another thing is about gratitude and generosity are things which are quite easy to be doing. So the attitude of gratitude may sound quite hippie to people, and some people, I know that we've got some doctors and different people, it may not resonate with people, but actually by having the attitude of gratitude, that really does, you can't be anxious or angry or upset when you're actually in a place of gratitude. And it can be quiet gratitude, it doesn't have to be completely over the top, but if you're sitting there and feeling content, you can't be feeling angry or anxious or stressed. They don't exist, or even depressed. Depression and gratitude are the opposite end of the scale. So if you can just sit there and notice small things that you're grateful for, like, I mean, what was it? 1/3 of the world don't have running water. I think that's the statistic. Or flushing toilets or heating, and like, think about how, if you are fortunate enough to be watching this amazing summit, you're on a computer, which means you've probably got a roof over your head, and and running water, and a lot of things that people didn't have. Like, it was only in the 1930s that the hot shower was invented. No one before 1930 had hot showers. They had cold baths or cold washes once a week. 1930s, that was invented. So if we think how ruddy fortunate we are for having food in our bellies and roofs over our heads, and just start with things like that, because there's many, many people in the world that don't. So I know that, and so if you start actually thinking, goodness, it's not that bad, I have got X, Y, and Z, then that's a really good way to start to bring more positivity and happiness into your life. And I've got the other one as well, which is the law of abundance. The law of abundance is really, really important as well. So if you want to start bringing lovely, beautiful, amazing things into your life, what you need to do is start being generous, but only in ways that you can afford to, either with your time or with your finances. So silly things like, I mean, I don't even know if they have penny sweets these days. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but even buying somebody a small gift, or making them a cup of tea, or giving them some biscuits, or baking them a cake, or giving people your time, and doing things in service, literally in service. Savor, which is a Sanskrit word which means selfless service. Doing things out of service, not because you want them to give something back to you, but because you have the opportunity to help and you take it. It's even silly things like walking down the street and seeing some rubbish on the ground and sticking that in the bin. It's seeing somebody struggling and helping them cross a road or down steps or carrying luggage. All of these selfless acts of service will bring up your vibration. And the law of abundance, the more you give, the more you get. And obviously, don't give, one, wanting things back, and two, things that you cannot afford to give. Do not give all your money away if you don't have the money, and then be sitting there going, oh my God, this is, now I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. That's really silly. Or gambling and things like that. But if you can give to the level that you can give, then the more you give, the more you get. And I notice when I'm very keen on the philosophy of kindness and generosity are things which are really ingrained in me, and I think that they are vital. And I notice the more generous I am, without necessarily seeking reward, doing it quietly, not doing it to be like on Instagram and taking a video of you feeding a homeless person. That's diabolical. Like, go feed the homeless person, go and buy them a sandwich. Don't try, and you're like, that depletes from it. If you're doing it to get likes and credit, go and just feed the homeless person. Or if you can, I don't know, like I've got to the stage now where it's I'm doing better and better, possibly because of the law of generosity, but I really love going for dinner with someone and then just going quietly paying the bill, and then just saying, let's go, and then saying, oh, we need to pay the bill, and you just say it's done. Like that, I've always been very fortunate to have wealthy friends who've always done that for me, and now I'm able to do that, and it's so fun. It's so fun and it's so rewarding. And amazingly, you start getting things back in ways you couldn't possibly imagine. And it can't, like, an abundance hits you from different directions because you're going in with the attitude of gratitude. You're not going in with the place of lack. And it can be small. I mean, literally baking some cakes and going and giving them to people, or very small things, acts of service, wash someone's car, do something helpful and kind, and see the opportunity to help and take it. Like, live with that, and then you'll be surprised how much abundance finds you.
Love that. Love that. Because again, it raises your vibration, and then that's where the whole magic is happening, correct?
Exactly that.
Actually, I know that you work with people, you and your team actually work with people who have past trauma, they have negative thought patterns. So I'm wondering, how do you, and a lot of us have some kind of past trauma, intensity
Every single person on
yeah.
the planet's got trauma.
So yeah, my question is, like, how do we manifest with that trauma? How do we balance that understanding that, yeah, I do have these negative patterns, I do have this trauma from the past, but I still want to manifest? Like, what's that healthy balance look like?
Clear the trauma. Get rid of the trauma. Honestly, get rid of the trauma. Go through, audit your life. Like at my level 1, you learn how to dissolve traumas. And yeah, we can do a special deal on that as well. We'll do an extra special deal, and we'll set up a code which is going to be Summit 75 for, I'm only deciding this right now on the spot. I've just decided to do a special deal. We'll do Summit 75. I better write that down so my team know about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Summit 75. So I'm going to do level 1, which is normally £333, and we're going to make it £75 for your audience. So
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Summit 75. Right, I've just literally made that up on the spot. So if you go and do my level, well, first of all, watch the video, which is we're going to be gifting to your audience. See that and work through your traumas. And what the video is you're going to start with the trauma, which is, say, a 10, like a 7 out of 10, and allow yourself to tune into your trauma, grade it out of 10, and then watch the video, and then allow yourself to play out the traumas like a movie montage in your mind. And then it's got 3 rounds of me dissolving the trauma, and it should go from a 7 to maybe a 2. And if it's still on a 2, then rewatch the video, and it will dissolve the traumas for you. And that's a free thing I'm going to be gifting to you guys. But if you want to be able to do these things yourself, my level 1 class, you can do this and dissolve traumas from level 1 yourself, in yourself and others. And then you can start to audit your stuff. Audit and go through your traumas and delete them. I mean, level 2, we've had people fix depression. 27 years of depression has been gone with my level 2 students can do that. So it's really big work, and it's awakening you to true divine nature, so you can become the gods and goddesses you've always been. And once you can go through all this stuff, you stop attracting the bad stuff. The dark side law of attraction isn't a thing anymore, because you've gone through all your traumas and deleted them. So honestly, this is the most direct way of doing it, and it's just so darn quick. It's minutes rather than sessions after sessions after sessions after sessions. That video that I was speaking of, the one which we're going to include, is a 10-minute video, and you can get loads of traumas down. And if you have another trauma, watch it again. If it's not gone down all the way, if maybe it's gone from a 7 to a 4, watch it again. So what? Keep watching it, and then you'll be able to start to dissolving them. And if then it resonates, and you can, get to level 1 for 75 quid and really, really start to audit your life, and you stop attracting the bad things. And then you can live a much happier, more abundant, beautiful life.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Antonia, I'll ask you a strange question, and this is my last question. Imagine that all our memories going to be wiped out you can only make us remember one thing. What is that one thing that you want this audience to remember?
That we're gods and goddesses with amnesia. We've forgotten it. That we are gods and goddesses with amnesia. Yeah, that is the one thing we've forgotten, and that's the one thing we need to remember. That's the most important thing.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. We are gods with amnesia. Love that.
That's it. That's the one thing. Yeah. Interesting question.
No, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your generosity, Antonia. Like, we will be sharing all the links in the email that we are sending you. So you are going to get like a 3-part video series from Antonia. You are going to get all the links to her social and website. And we are also going to send you the code where you can do her level 1 training. Thank you so much, Antonia, for making time for this community. We are so thankful. Thank you so much.
And everything's on divineempowerment.com. So Antonia Harmon from divineempowerment.com. If you want to find me on my socials, I've got Instagram. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. If you look up Antonia Harmon, Divine Empowerment. And yes, Summit 75 is the special code. And thank you for having me.
No, everybody will have these links in, their
emails. I'm sure.
Perfect. No, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you. Thank you, Antonia, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We will see you in our next session.